Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Roast here with Jessica Bun Bun, and this is our Bad Sisters Season 2, Episode 5 reaction and review with a very special guest here in the opening.
We have a co-host for at least a little part of it, Miss Fifi Fontaine. I heard you in
Oh,
the comments you had wanted to see my bunny. She's here helping us out
yeah.
because the bunny that belonged to Angelica has been returned.
It's
Yes.
okay.
However, I will say that BB's reaction to it being like, "Oh, poor bunny." Man, I have never been turned around so badly on a character where I really liked a character in BB, and then this season, she is the worst sister to me. She is under Ursula, who I've never liked. Like, I am completely out on BB for no reason. Like, this rabbit plot, it didn't need to happen at all. It led to no story. Like, you stole somebody's pet,
Yeah.
you ran with a prey animal in your bag, closed bag, you let it go, and then you're like, oh, poor animal. It's worse that it's been returned to its owner. It should have just been left outside to die. I'm like, you are the worst human being.
Okay.
Below Ursula. BB, we ain't talking anymore.
I am now a Garvey sister free agent. I had said that PB was my favorite pre-Bunny storyline. Now, I'm actually going to say I'm starting to teeter in the direction of being hashtag Team Becca for things that I will explain as this video goes along. Yes, Becca is messy. Yes, Becca has done some bad things.
She also called rabbits creepy. I'll let that one go. Some people think they're creepy, but they're not.
You know what she did not do is take the rabbit out of Angelica's house. So she at least has that. She also is not doing what Ursula did last season. The bar is pretty low at this point when it comes to Garvey's sister morality.
My favorite Garvey sister is dead.
That is where we are now, where it's just like, you're dead. You cannot do anything else that is bad. You are therefore automatically number one.
That's right.
There is an uncomfortable conversation with this show and its treatment of animals at times, whether it be what happened to the dog in season 1 where they were trying to get JP, they ended up getting the dog, and then everything this season with the bunny. Like, I understand this show is a dark comedy. I understand it's fictional, but I think what happens with animals and a lot of us watching TV a lot of the time is that we get very desensitized to what happens to people because we all think about people as being inherently flawed and they do a lot of bad things, and we've also just seen it a million times. And with animals it's different, and that's why it's so much more jarring.
I also think it's different with animals because humans can typically defend themselves. Animals can't. And bunnies especially are in danger all the time. Like I said, they're prey animals. Their main purpose is to get eaten. It's really horrible. Like, even other bunnies don't like other bunnies unless they're bonded. They will kick you into the sun. So to have a difficult pet, and rabbits are very difficult pets. They will eat your house to dust. They give you lots of love and they're great or whatever, but they are also a lot of maintenance and you have to be really knowledgeable to have one. I just feel like the show missed the mark. Even though it's fictional, it is still set in the real world with real world problems. So if you're going to pick a specialty animal that's not a cat, not a dog, that people are more familiar with, and you're gonna put it into a show, then I think you need to be more educated in what you're doing with that animal. I don't know, that's just me. It was really uncomfortable to watch as a rabbit owner. And even though there's not, it's not as common as a cat or a dog, I mean, there's millions of rabbit owners out there that are watching the show being like, what are you doing to this animal? And I think in general, pet owners that watch people steal other people's pets are just gonna like sink your heart.
Yeah, like that's just the biggest problem with this whole storyline with Angelica, and it clouds a part of this episode. I mean, I will say as we get more into it that the final 5 episodes of the final 5 minutes of this episode, I enjoyed immensely. I enjoyed for so many different reasons that we're going to get into, but before we do, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what else is coming through Bad Sisters Season 2. Who knows? Maybe there'll even be a Season 3 down the road. We got a ways to go before we figure that out.
Fifi would really appreciate your subscription.
Hey,
Please subscribe!
Oh, Fifi, you can talk now. there's another twist in this video. And also, if you guys want to support us more, be sure to join our Patreon. We've got a link in the description. Over there, we are covering exclusively in video form Dune Prophecy, which has been a lot of fun and is letting us go loose with completely insane theories, which are always fun to talk about.
And we're going to be having a poll up there soon for our patrons to be able to decide what we're going to be covering next over there in the new year. We're looking at covering possibly one reality show. We don't really cover reality here at the channel anymore, but we are looking at covering a reality show over there and another scripted property over there. So join our Patreon, and thank you so much to everyone who has.
Thank you guys so much.
Okay, let's talk about Angelica going overboard, very likely dead at this point. This was done so brilliantly because there were so many times that I saw that mast just waving around. I'm like, is she gonna get hit? No, nothing happened. Oh, is she gonna get hit now? No, nothing happened. And then all of a sudden, kablam, right over the side. I was like, this was really well done.
I want to feel like in my head that this is an homage to the late, great Bob Saget's version of America's Funniest Home Videos, because there are few things I enjoy more than life than the sound effect clong, which is exactly what happened to Angelica. It's sort of like, sure, maybe I feel bad for like those field goal kickers who miss their kicks, but I really enjoy it when they kick it and it hits one of the uprights and it goes clong, and then they don't end up making it, and then they're sad because nobody on the team is supporting them while they walk off the field. I laughed when this happened to Angelica. Does that make me a bad person? Possibly, but it was so funny.
Possibly you are in the Bad Sisters Club.
Clong. It was
funny.
It was unexpected in a way where I should have expected it.
Yeah, I was expecting it and expecting it and expecting it because they kept showing that mast like going. I'm like, oh, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. And I was like, okay, well, if it hasn't happened in all these other times, it's not gonna happen. So by the time it did happen, I was like, oh my God.
This is also, by the way, why I would be very apprehensive about being on one of these boats, because I'm blind in one eye. In my right eye, I would have no recollection of if that mast is coming to me or not.
No, if you're gonna go boating, it's got to be with somebody who's somewhat experienced. There's no way. But it was interesting how we even got to this spot where Angelica was like, okay, you three sisters, you're gonna come with me with Grace, and we're gonna scatter her ashes. And it was all seemingly part of this bigger plan to then take Grace's daughter, give her some money, send her off so that Eva didn't know where she was, and she was just gonna go crazy like, oh my God, she's missing, she's not at Angelica's house, I know she's behind it. She's going to the cops and like spilling her guts, being like, oh my God, it's Angelica, she's behind it, not knowing that Angelica has now gone overboard on this boat. It has set up like such a good story.
It has really set up what I think is going to be an absolute fire final few episodes of this season. And maybe I would feel differently about laughing at Angelica's death if she was a better person.
Listen, I was laughing so hard when she was scattering the ashes and they're just going all over the other sisters and they're coughing out ashes. I've seen that in other shows and movies, but it makes me laugh every single time. And like that little biscotti tin, oh man, it was really cute. And just like they're like picking up this biscotti tin, they're putting in fire ashes. I would pay a sketchy person on Etsy $20 for that tin. It was so cute.
I think when this show is firing on all cylinders, it can be really, really clever. It can be really, really funny.
So funny.
Like, you can sit here and say at this point that it is karma that actually killed Angelica in this moment, because everything she's been doing has been awful and manipulative. But because the Garvey sisters, while they may plot and scheme a lot of the time, the fact that these particular sisters have not directly killed anyone sort of shows
now they have
that there's a little bit of a listen, karma killed Angelica. This is why I am saying that, Becca, you're in the running for my favorite, because at the very least you tried to save her. Like, you jumped overboard while also wearing what looked to be a particularly heavy sweater. I don't know how she didn't sink when she's swimming around wearing that.
No, like watching the three of them really scramble to like, okay, we need to call for help, but we need to do whatever we can. We gotta like turn the boat around. We gotta get her. That no matter what Angelica has done to them, and they were in the middle of a fight when all this was happening, and the horrible things she was saying. I've been saying this all season. It's not enough for the Garvey sisters to actually kill her. There's not enough there. This isn't JP.
Yeah.
It's not on the same level. So I was like, when are they going to get to that level where they're like, it's time to kill her? So an accident made way more sense, where they were like, okay, we didn't want this. We got to turn the boat around. We got to call for help. Well, that's not working. Watching Becca fly over the side, not care. She's going for her. If she can get to her, she doesn't, but she tries.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really good to see that happening, because when the bad sisters are bad, it can be a lot of fun to watch. But when the bad sisters are good, it's also really compelling.
Yeah, and I just think the scene with Becca really differentiates this from something kind of akin to An American Tragedy by Theodore Dreiser, for the two people out there who have read that book, where you just let somebody drown. Because then you're basically saying, okay, then it's a variation of murder at that point. You're not doing anything to help. But they tried to do something to help. I think it's fair to presume that she's gone, but this is where we have to pose another very, very important question now, that if Angelica is dead, she's not in that trunk at the start of this season. So this implies that we have both been sitting here being like, it's Angelica in the trunk the whole season. Who is it now?
Yeah, there's two other people that I had on my list. One of them is Ian, and I still think it's possible he's in that trunk. And the other was Roger, who now I'm kind of wondering even more if he could be the person in the trunk. I mean, with Angelica being very likely dead at this point, and the smoke is going to be all over the Garvey sisters, because my tinfoil hat is that the three of them are going to want to go straight to the police and be like, this is exactly what happened. We tried to put a call on. I'm sure they can track that they did try to put a call on. They tried to save her. They did everything that they could. They came to her right away. It was clearly an accident. That would be enough. And then we're going to have Eva on the other side being like, well, here's the thing. I just went to Loftus and Houlihan, and I just like blamed Angelica for a whole bunch of stuff. So it's going to look like murder. So we got to treat it like a murder and just hide it all. Wouldn't it be great if it was Houlihan in the trunk? I cannot stand this character.
You would be elated if it is Houlihan in the trunk at this point.
She is a terrible detective.
She is really terrible. And I will say this. I would rather they get rid of her than they get rid of either Ian or Roger, who I am now going to just start calling Thirsty Roger, because, okay, Roger, you've already tried to hit on Ursula. That didn't work. This episode, you try to hit on Eva.
Let's go, Roger. You get some.
Roger is just like, well, I got to have at least one sister by the end of this season. I think
he's just offering his D to everybody. Maybe he'll get someone.
You're not going to get BB. I'm going to say that right now.
You're not also, get any of them.
Becca's pregnant. Roger's just down. This is not a good season for Roger. He doesn't need to die. He's too interesting and weird a character.
He is, but he is also someone to look at, because he is someone that helped clean up a murder and set up this murder as an accident. So he has been involved with stuff like this. And now his sister is dead, and it's because of the Garvey sisters. This is now the second thing that's going to be really weighing on him. He could turn into an adversary, a quiet adversary, which is always the scariest one, because you don't really know that it's coming.
Is it possible, and this is crazy tinfoil hat time, that Roger, and yes, this is comical, but go with us, Roger is kind of socially awkward. That Roger thinks he can seduce one of the Garvey sisters so that he can get close, get intel, be one step ahead in case something is ever going to come back on him.
It's possible, but I mean, he has all the intel that he really needs. I mean, really, he's the only person that really knows everything that happened that night. I mean, the rest of the sisters don't know everything. They know some stuff, and they know most stuff, but the only two people that really knew everything are Grace and Roger, and Grace is gone.
Yeah, I don't think that's what's going on. I think he's just awkward, but it's crossed my mind. But I want to go back to the Ian theory you brought up, because it's just, for me right now too, this makes the most sense just from the perspective of, is it true that Eva and Ian are getting closer? 100%. But
Yep.
at the same time, we know the Garveys are going to protect each other more than they're going to protect anyone else. There's a pretty well documented history of that. So if this ever comes down to a situation where you need a fall person for all of this and you can't just kill Houlihan, as much more fun as that would be, you have to get rid of somebody, and implicating Ian or having Ian be the fall person, I mean, it makes sense for how dark this show can be.
Absolutely, it does make sense. And I'm wondering how much of the conversation that Angelica ended up having on that boat
Yeah.
with the Garvey sisters is going to come into play, because there was a lot of things that she said on that boat. Like, she was like, nah, Eva made a play for JP. So now it makes sense that she would make a play for Ian as well. And as we've seen on the show, she is growing more romantic with Ian. And I have said this in many videos. It's completely normal that in a grieving process, when two people have lost somebody that they both love, that they end up hooking up. It happens all the time. Does it make it right? I don't know. That's not for me to decide. But in this case, the Garvey sisters were very protective over that. I was like, nah, Eva would never do that. She would never get together with Ian. That's not a thing. You're making that up. And here she is kissing Ian.
Yeah, it's going to be a difficult line that they have to toe, because they have to recognize, okay, Eva may be doing this, but Eva may not, it may have nothing to do with anything that Angelica said. Angelica's just being manipulative. She's throwing things against the wall, hoping that something stick, because she's trying to turn the sisters against each other. They can have whatever judgment they want to have about Eva and Ian potentially being together, but Angelica's not the root cause of anything. She's just so dangerous because she'll just blabber on and on and on. And this is why I'm so shocked that they got rid of her at this point, because I just thought, if you have Fiona Shaw, unless Fiona Shaw had like 300 other things on her schedule, it's just like, well, why would you not want to hold on to her as long as you can?
Yeah, I just feel like her death opens up the story in a really big way, where the rabbit story opened up nothing. I think that this really opens up story for them, because they do have what Grace did. You know, Loftus and Houlihan are looking into them for JP still, and now there's this Angelica thing. Do they tell the truth? If they do, they'll still be investigated. If they don't, they'll still be investigated. Now they have to hide two things. Like, it ups the stakes a lot going into these last few episodes. But speaking of Loftus, it was interesting to see how the turtles came into play, because I thought that Grace maybe had another poppy in the turtle pen, because even in the promotional art, she's holding that spade. And we saw the turtles so many times. The turtles are in the opening credits. And what's going on with the turtle pen? Her money's in the turtle pen, and Loftus has taken some of it.
I am grateful that nothing is going on with the turtles now that we seemingly have a resolution. Don't do anything more to the turtles, guys. But yeah, Loftus is bad at his job in a very different way than Houlihan is bad at her job. Loftus is trying to look out for number one with a lot of other things going on in his life.
This is where I'm wondering. Maybe it's Houlihan that's in the trunk, but that Loftus is going to have to back off, because the sisters are going to find out what he did, and he's not going to be able to walk that back. And the only person that can really pull the pin on it all is Houlihan. I just needed to be Houlihan. Okay, well, that's so bad. I really don't want it to be Roger.
Beyond your disdain for Houlihan, that's a really fun theory, because at the end of the day here, as bad as these sisters are, the story's not good if they all end this season going to prison. It's like, I'm sure we'll get closure this season. It seems like that's the way that Bad Sisters works. If they do season 3, it'll be something completely different. So I think they're going to wrap up some loose ends, but they're going to have the sisters still out there. And finding a way, you got to get Loftus and Houlihan off your tracks one way or another here.
Yeah, it's also going to be interesting to see how your new favorite character, Becca's pregnancy story, ends up going and what she decides to do with it. I got to say, one of my favorite moments of this episode was them karaokeing to the Cranberries. One of my favorites, but definitely one of Matt's favorites. Anytime there's a games night going on over here, Matt is like, "We hear the Cranberries on the LP." I'm like, absolutely we can, because they are the greatest.
I loved everything about this scene. The entire birthday party was so weird and absurd. And my birthday is in October, so it's kind of close to Halloween, but not once at a birthday party have I ever been like, can I dress up like a giant banana? Can I wear like these? Why are you people all wearing costumes? These singing karaoke to the cranberries part, I understood a little bit more. But I also just liked how impulsive Becca's announcement to everybody was, where it's mid karaoke. It's pretty clear that, okay, she's been wrestling with, how do I tell everybody? How do I tell everybody? And she's just in this really fun, vulnerable moment with her sisters. It just sort of comes out because she can't hold it in anymore. She's struggling to figure out what she's going to do. And it's just like, out of all the sister storylines right now, I think hers is the most, I don't want to say normal, but it's the most relatable, I think, to a lot of people out there.
The most relatable story to me right now is Eva. So I know that Grace is my favorite, but really it's Eva. I'm turning 50 as well. So she just turned 50 in this episode. She had her party. It's a huge milestone. She's really struggling with that, of like going into sort of your, last half of life and what's going on and what things you've accomplished, what you haven't accomplished. And for me, I'm turning 50 in a couple months, and I'm just starting to put together that as well in my own mind, where it's like, oh, you're turning 50, you're going into your last months, what your last years, what are you going to be doing with your time? What have you done with your time? You're still able-bodied enough to get out and do some stuff. So like, what should you be doing? I was like, it's so relatable
well,
to me.
First of all, you guys have a lot of time left. Second of all,
thank you.
I think that
we'll see about that.
Well, no, you have a lot of time left. Eva has a lot of time left.
Absolutely. But I mean, realistically, when you're hitting 50, depending on kind of like what she's doing, she's got her life coach, she's got her, working out and trying to be as healthy as you can, whatever things happen, once you start to get into your 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, things change a little bit health wise. You're not in your 20s anymore. You're not climbing mountains and doing whatever. You're just slowing down a little bit. I'm not saying like I'm rolling into my deathbed or anything, but I'm not 20 anymore.
Well, I think ultimately Eva is trying to figure out what she wants the rest of her life to look like.
Yes, that's what I'm mostly saying. It is a crossroads.
And I think that's a big part of what's going on with her in Ian as well. I think she's kind of at this point where she's just like, okay, I'm going to stop thinking as much about, what are other people going to think if I do X, Y, or Z? Like, what makes me happy? Ian, in this moment, I don't know if he makes her happy, but I think he offers up like a source of comfort for her. And I think this also motivates that scene where she is spilling the beans about Angelica in a very entertaining way, because I just think she's done with all of it. It's just been nonsense after nonsense after nonsense.
Yeah.
I enjoyed Eva in this episode a lot too.
Yeah, me too. I think she's really cooking this season.
All right, so that's where we are with Bad Sisters Season 2, Episode 5. This has been a very enjoyable season, #Bunnygate aside. There was a lot of really deep and interesting stuff to talk about here. I'm really excited for how this whole trunk mystery wraps up here. I think your Ian idea and the Houlihan idea, those are the two things I am rooting for the most at present.
#Houlihan's in the trunk.
Let's make it happen. And I say this as though you haven't already written and filmed the entire thing. But anyway, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you guys don't miss any of our other Bad Sisters coverage. Also, if you've got Apple TV Plus, check out Before and also Silo, two shows we're really enjoying doing. And join our Patreon. We've got a link in the description below. We're covering Dune Prophecy exclusively there. Thank you so much. We'll see you here next time.